The crowd went silent the moment she stumbled through the gate, blood dripping from her temple, her arm limp, every breath a knife. The Galactic Coliseum had witnessed slaughter, rebellion, even gods fall, but never tenderness. Across the sand, a shadow moved. Two eyes, blue as dying stars, locked on the wounded human who had once cradled him as a pup. And when he spoke, when that voice thundered through the arena, the universe itself seemed to stop. "Who dares draw blood from my mother?" If that opening hit you right in the heart, wait until you hear what comes next. This isn't just a story about beasts and war. It's about the one bond no galaxy could break. So, hit that like button, subscribe for more human versus the universe moments, and share it with anyone who still believes compassion is humanity's deadliest weapon. All right, let's step into the arena. The Galactic Coliseum of Draxus Prime wasn't built for mercy. It was built for spectacle, for blood that painted the sand and for the screams that made the nobles smile. When Captain Arlland Voss staggered through the iron gate, the crowd didn't cheer at first. They gasped. Her uniform, once silver gray, polished with pride, now hung in tatters. Blood streaked down her face, her left arm useless, her breathing ragged. Yet there was no fear in her eyes, only defiance. Thousands watched from the stands, krill with crystal hides, vaunty merchants whose tentacles trembled with greed, Ascari warriors gleaming under the artificial suns. They'd come to see a human die, and they expected her to beg. She didn't. She walked until she stood at the center of the sand, where every warrior before her had fallen. The metallic taste of blood filled her mouth. Somewhere above, the Draxian sovereign leaned forward in his throne, mandibles clicking. The gates behind her rumbled. The air thickened with vibration. Something huge was moving inside the shadows. The crowd began to chant, not words, but a rhythm, primal and ancient. Arlland closed her eyes. She already knew what waited beyond that gate. The gate rose with a grinding moan, dust spilling from its hinges. Darkness poured out first, then two glowing eyes, vast and unblinking. The crowd erupted. Fenrir stepped into the light. 4 meters at the shoulder, fur black as deep space, muscles rippling beneath it like tectonic waves. Each step left claw marks in the stone. His breath misted in the artificial air, each exhale trembling through the arena. To the spectators, he was a monster, the beast of Terrace 7. But to Arlland, he was something else entirely. In her mind flashed memories. The tiny creature she'd found whimpering beside its dead mother, eyes crusted shut, trembling in fear. How she'd fed him from her rations, wrapped him in her jacket, whispered human lullabies until he slept. She remembered the day he'd grown too large for her quarters, how the command council ordered his termination. She'd stood between them, weapon drawn. "He's not a weapon," she'd said. "He's a life." Now that life stood before her, teeth like plasma blades, eyes burning with a terrible intelligence. Fenrir's gaze swept the crowd, then stopped when it found her. He saw the blood, he saw her pain, and something inside him snapped. A low sound rumbled through the Coliseum, faint at first, like distant thunder. Then it grew, louder, deeper, until the air itself seemed to quake. The crowd fell silent as Fenrir's chest expanded, his fur rippling with static charge. And then he roared. It wasn't the sound of an animal. It was language, raw, ancient, trembling with power. Translator implants across the arena screamed feedback, and even without them, every being understood the words that shattered the air. "Who dares draw blood from my mother?" The silence that followed felt endless. The sovereign froze in his seat, mandibles twitching, uncertain if he'd truly heard speech from a creature bred for killing. Arland's breath caught. She hadn't heard that voice in years. Deep, resonant, still carrying that soft, loyal tone she once knew. The crowd began to panic, scrambling from their seats, stumbling over each other. Even the guards hesitated. Fenrir's eyes blazed like twin suns as he took a single step forward, claws carving the ground. The sovereign finally rose, his armor clattering. "The beast speaks," he hissed. Arlland smiled through her blood. "You wanted a monster," she said softly. "You should have asked what makes humans dangerous." Fenrir moved, not toward Arlland, but toward the sovereign's box. Each step shook the ground. Guards poured onto the arena floor, weapons raised, energy rifles humming. But he didn't slow. "Fire!" someone screamed. Plasma bolts streaked across the air, white fire cutting through the dust. They hit his fur and fizzled out like sparks against a storm cloud. Fenrir's snarl rolled through the Coliseum, deep enough to rattle bones. Arlland staggered forward, her hand pressed to her ribs. "It's not our strength," she shouted, her voice echoing across the chaos. "Not our ships, not our weapons." Fenrir lunged, a blur of black and blue light. His jaws clamped around a Draxian guard, armor crunching like glass. Screams filled the stands. The sovereign stumbled backward, terror written across every segmented line of his face. Arlland raised her voice again, steadier this time. "It's that we love fiercely, and we teach those we love to do the same." Fenrir halted mid-charge, eyes flickering toward her. That voice, the one that had soothed him through every nightmare, cut through the fury. "Fenrir," she whispered, barely audible over the dying echoes. "Come." The great beast turned, lowered his head, and padded toward her. The arena fell into stillness. Dust drifted through shafts of artificial light. Every living creature watched as Captain Arlland Voss, bleeding, broken, unyielding, rested her hand on the muzzle of the monster they had come to fear. Fenrir's tail curled around her protectively, his massive body trembling not with rage, but with relief. The sovereign's voice quivered. "You could have killed us all." Arlland looked up at him, her expression calm despite the pain. "Yes," she said, "and that's what you'll never understand about Earth." She brushed her hand along Fenrir's fur, the same way she had when he was just a frightened pup. "We don't just survive, we bond, we love, and there is nothing in this universe more dangerous than someone who has found something worth protecting." Fenrir rumbled softly like a dying star sighing in peace. Together they turned toward the open gate, the same gate that once promised death, and walked through it side by side. The crowd didn't cheer. They simply watched, silent and reverent, as the beast and the woman disappeared into the light. On that day, the galaxy learned a new truth. It wasn't human strength the universe feared most. It was human heart.